Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hidden Motives crime series. Today, we're looking at another deeply troubling case. The case of Samantha Fraser is a clear example of how some people simply cannot be changed, even by someone educated, experienced, and professionally trained to understand human behavior. When cruelty shows itself early on, the safest response is to walk away. People like this don't suddenly become better. They don't deserve endless second chances, and they are capable of extreme violence, often believing they'll never face consequences. This tragedy unfolded in the summer of 2018 on Phillip Island, a quiet Australian island near Melbourne. But let's go through the story in order. Adrian Basham was born in Australia in 1973. He grew up in the family of a police officer. During his early years, he didn't attract the attention of law enforcement, but many now believe that his cruelty and sudden, uncontrolled aggression were shaped by his childhood and family environment. Looking ahead, when Adrian's father, James Basham, later learned about the brutal murder his son had committed, he didn't condemn him. Instead, drawing on his experience as a police officer, he gave Adrian advice on how to behave and what to say in an attempt to avoid punishment. Samantha Fraser was born in the suburbs of Melbourne in the summer of 1980. She grew up in a warm, loving family. Her parents, Janine and Travis Fraser, fully supported their only daughter and did everything they could to give her a good education and help her develop her talents. Samantha did well in school and was very active in sports, earning multiple awards for her achievements. After finishing school, she enrolled in a prestigious university to study psychology and graduated with top honors. While studying, she continued to train in acrobatics, gymnastics, and dance. Her athletic ability and leadership skills eventually led her to become the captain of the university cheerleading team. After earning her degree, Samantha began working as a psychotherapist at a large medical institution. She quickly gained the respect and trust of both her colleagues and her patients. This profession wasn't just a job for her. It was her calling. Samantha truly loved what she did. Samantha and Adrian first met in late 2005. Their relationship began as a friendship and soon turned into a romantic one. Many people who knew them personally struggled to understand what brought them together, as they seemed completely different in almost every way. Samantha was kind, open, and easy to talk to. She knew how to handle difficult situations calmly and always tried to find a peaceful solution. Adrian, on the other hand, was often harsh and rude, with a hot-tempered and confrontational personality. Despite these differences, about a year and a half after meeting, the couple officially got married. They bought a home in the suburbs of Melbourne, not far from Samantha's parents. Adrian soon found a job with a large mining company, a position that involved frequent travel and long business trips, meaning he wasn't home very often. In many ways, that distance was likely the reason the marriage lasted as long as it did. Adrian turned out to be deeply controlling at home, trying to dominate Samantha and monitor everything she did. He demanded complete obedience and showed behavior that suggested serious psychological issues. He became obsessed with order inside the house, not just cleanliness, but the exact placement of objects. Even small things, like books being moved on a shelf or toiletries rearranged in the bathroom, could instantly trigger his anger and aggression. Samantha, being a psychologist, tried to manage the situation. She knew how to smooth over conflicts and hoped that, over time, her husband would change and become calmer and more restrained. During the marriage, they had 3 children together, daughters Jemima and April, and a son, Rex. But even becoming a father did nothing to soften Adrian's character. In 2014, one family argument escalated into physical violence. Samantha stayed silent. She didn't go to the police and didn't tell anyone what had happened. She convinced herself it wouldn't happen again, and her family and colleagues had no idea that her husband had raised a hand against her. A year later, it happened again. Adrian assaulted her once more. This time, Samantha realized she had reached her limit. His constant outbursts, emotional instability, and obsessive control were pushing her to the breaking point. She filed a police report, took the children, and moved into her parents' home. In the spring of 2017, the divorce was finalized. By court order, the family home was awarded to Samantha and the children, and they soon returned there. Adrian, however, had no intention of leaving his ex-wife alone. He continued to harass her and interfere in her life, making her everyday existence unbearable. Samantha no longer felt safe. She lived in constant fear, not only for herself, but for her children as well. Eventually, she obtained a court injunction that prohibited Adrian from approaching them or interfering in their lives in any way. But this still didn't stop Basham. He moved in nearby and continued to provoke Samantha in every way he could. According to one of Adrian's friends, he openly said that he intended to take everything that mattered to his ex-wife, starting with the house and ending with the children. He also made direct threats of physical violence. Not long before the tragedy, Adrian once again told this same friend that Samantha would soon pay for everything. He looked serious and intimidating when he said it, but the friend didn't fully grasp the meaning of those words until after Samantha was killed. Living in constant fear and emotional strain, Samantha took extra steps to protect herself and her children. She installed an alarm system, put bars on the windows, and set up surveillance cameras around the house. She admitted to people close to her that she was afraid her ex-husband might break in and hurt her or the children. About a year after the divorce, Samantha began to feel that Adrian had finally started to back off. He appeared less often, and for the first time in a long while, she felt some sense of relief. That distance gave her a false feeling of safety. Samantha even started a new relationship and began making plans for a happier future. On July 22, 2018, Samantha celebrated her 38th birthday with close friends and her partner, Wayne. According to those who were there, she looked genuinely happy and unusually calm about her own safety and the well-being of the people she loved. Just a few days earlier, Wayne had proposed to her. They planned to get married and take a long trip together afterward, hoping to leave their troubles behind. The next morning, Samantha took the children to school and headed to work. Along the way, she received a phone call from someone she knew, warning her that Adrian had been seen near her house. Samantha was unsettled by the news but chose not to panic. Instead, she decided to stay alert and cautious. In a few weeks, she was scheduled to face her ex-husband in court over domestic violence charges, and she feared he might try to retaliate because of the case. She shared her concerns during a phone call with her best friend, who tried to calm her down and reassure her. After that conversation, Samantha was never seen alive again. When Samantha didn't arrive at school that afternoon to pick up her children, a teacher, who was aware of the tense situation in the family, contacted the police. Officers were immediately sent to her home to check on her. At first, it appeared that Samantha simply hadn't returned yet. But when the police decided to inspect the garage attached to the house, they were met with a horrifying scene. The body of the 38-year-old homeowner was found hanging from a fixture on the garage door. At first glance, it could have looked like suicide, but Samantha's condition told a very different story. Her body showed extensive injuries, as if she had been severely beaten. There were hardly any uninjured areas left. Her hair was wet and hanging over her face, partially covering it. She wasn't wearing the same clothes she had left the house in that morning, and her shoes were nowhere to be found. It was clear that someone else had been in the garage and that an attempt had been made to stage the scene as a suicide. But it was done poorly. An overturned stepladder lay near the body, yet the rope was so long that Samantha's feet were touching the floor. She had serious bruising under her eye and on her temple, and her entire body was covered in cuts, scrapes, and bruises that had been inflicted while she was alive. Later forensic examinations confirmed that Samantha had suffered a severe head injury. Experts concluded that she was either unconscious or already dead by the time she was suspended. Blood and skin cells were found under her fingernails, indicating that she had fought back and scratched her attacker in a desperate attempt to defend herself. Investigators also discovered numerous traces of washed-away blood and small splatters on the floor, the walls, and even on the body of the car parked inside the garage. Blood was later found in several places on the rope itself. That same evening, Adrian Basham arrived at his father James's house on his motorcycle. He appeared anxious, and his face had several fresh scratches. When his father questioned him about them, Adrian avoided giving clear answers and claimed he had scraped himself on tree branches while riding without a helmet. Shortly after, he took a large pack of wet wipes and began wiping down his motorcycle, saying he wanted to clean off insects from the ride. As a former police officer, James Basham immediately sensed that something was wrong. His instincts told him this wasn't normal behavior. The next day, detectives came to James Basham's home with questions, informing him that his son was the main suspect in his ex-wife's murder. At that moment, James understood exactly what was happening. He initially told investigators he hadn't seen Adrian. After buying himself some time, he began instructing his son on what to say, how to act, and how to behave, not necessarily to escape punishment, but at least to try to reduce it. Adrian followed his father's advice. He listened quietly as the charges were read to him and obediently went to the police station, accompanied by the lawyers his father had already hired. At first, Adrian refused to cooperate with the investigation. He didn't deny that he had been at the scene, but he stayed silent, ignoring every question. Still, the evidence collected by the authorities was more than enough to build a case against him. The fresh scratches on his face immediately drew investigators' attention. It quickly became clear that Samantha had scratched him while trying to defend herself, and forensic tests confirmed the presence of her blood and skin cells under her fingernails. Sweat marks from Adrian were also found on the rope from which his ex-wife's body had been suspended. Further evidence appeared when police examined Adrian's motorcycle. Traces of Samantha's blood had been washed onto it, and a bloody blouse belonging to her was found in a garbage bin outside his father's house. It seemed he had tried to dispose of the evidence, but hadn't succeeded in cleaning up completely. Surveillance footage from the cameras Samantha had installed outside her home shortly before the murder showed a man leaving the scene in a hurry on the day she died. His face was hidden under a hood and a baseball cap, but there was no doubt it was Adrian. Investigators carefully reconstructed the events of Samantha's last day, piece by piece, and what emerged was horrifying. While no one was home, Adrian had forced open the garage door lock and waited inside for hours for his ex-wife to return. When Samantha arrived and drove into the garage, he attacked her before she could get out of the car. Samantha fought back desperately. The scratches on Adrian's face proved that, but she was no match for him. He beat her until she lost consciousness. Then, in an attempt to cover his tracks, he removed her blood-stained blouse, replacing it with a black t-shirt he found in the house, and poured water over her head to wash the blood from her blonde hair. Adrian then looped a rope around Samantha's neck and hung her from the garage door. He placed a stepladder next to her body, but he misjudged the rope's length. Her feet were still touching the floor. He attempted to clean up the blood, but missed countless small spatters that remained scattered everywhere. It's almost impossible to comprehend. A young woman, a loving mother of 3, was found dead in her own garage. The killer tried to make it appear as a suicide, but every clue pointed otherwise. Samantha's injuries also suggested she had fought until the end, showing immense courage in the face of terror. The saddest part is that she had lived with this man for years, enduring both psychological and physical abuse, raising their children and hoping, against all evidence, that he might change. Once Adrian realized that denying his actions was futile, the evidence against him was overwhelming, he shifted tactics. He admitted being at Samantha's house that day, claiming he only intended to talk to her and convince her to withdraw her domestic violence case. According to him, the conversation went badly, fists were exchanged, but he left while Samantha was still alive and conscious. His lawyers argued that he was guilty only of battery and suggested that Samantha took her own life afterward. But relatives strongly rejected this. Samantha would never have taken her own life, nor would she have abandoned her children. She was planning a wedding and a future with her new partner. She had every reason to live. The trial itself did not begin until the end of 2022. Samantha and Adrian's older children attended the sessions, openly condemning their father and calling for justice. The youngest child did not attend. It was too traumatic for him. He was already terrified of his father and overwhelmed with fear. The defense attempted to argue that Adrian had acted impulsively, in a sudden fit of rage. This claim failed, however. Investigators proved that he had waited for hours, prepared for the crime, and tried to eliminate evidence afterward. Finally, in February 2023, the court delivered its verdict. Adrian Basham was found guilty of brutal, premeditated murder and was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for at least 30 years. Samantha's parents, Janine and Travis Fraser, were appointed guardians of the children, providing them with the care and stability their mother would have wanted. Thank you for watching. If you want to stay up to date with future cases, consider subscribing to the channel.